Birds and Poets by John Burroughs. In summer, when the shaws be sheen, and leaves be large and long, it is full merry and fair forest to hear the fowl song. The woodwell sang and would not cease, sitting upon the spray, so loud it wakened Robin Hood in the greenwood where he lay. It might almost be said that the birds are all birds of the poets and of no one else, because it is only the poetical temperament that fully responds to them. So true is this that all the great ornithologists, original namers and biographers of the birds have been poets indeed, if not in word. Audubon is a notable case in point, who, if he had not the tongue or the pen of the poet, certainly had the eye and ear and heart, the fluid and attaching character, and the singleness of purpose, the enthusiasm, the unworldliness, the love that characterize the true and divine race of bards. So had Wilson, though perhaps not in as large a measure, yet he took fire as only a poet can. While making a journey on foot to Philadelphia shortly after landing in this country, he caught sight of the red-headed woodpecker flitting among the trees, a bird that shows like a tri-colored scarf among the foliage, and it so kindled his enthusiasm that his life was devoted to the pursuit of birds from that day. It was a lucky hit. Wilson had already set up as a poet in Scotland, and was still fermenting when the bird met his eye and suggested to his soul a new outlet for its enthusiasm. The very idea of a bird is a symbol and a suggestion to the poet. A bird seems to be at the top of the scale, so vehement and intense is his life. Large-brained, large-lunged, hot, ecstatic, his frame charged with buoyancy, and his heart with song. The beautiful vagabonds, endowed with every grace, masters of all climes, and knowing no bounds. How many human aspirations are realized in their free, holiday lives, and how many suggestions to the poet in their flight and song. Indeed, is not the bird the original type and teacher of the poet? And do we not demand of the human lark or thrush that he shake out his carols in the same free and spontaneous manner as his winged prototype? Kingsley has shown how surely the old minnesingers and early ballad writers have learned of the birds, taking their keynote from the blackbird or the woodlark or the throstle, and giving utterance to a melody as simple and unstudied. Such things as the following were surely caught from the fields or the woods. She sat down below a thorn, fine flowers in the valley, and there has she her sweet babe born, and the green leaves they grow rarely. Or the best lyric pieces, how like they are to a certain bird songs. Clear, ringing, ecstatic, and suggesting that the challenge and triumph which the outpourings of the male bird contains, is not the genuine singing, lyrical quality essentially masculine? Keats and Shelley, perhaps more notably than any other English poets, have the bird organization and the piercing wild bird cry. This, of course, is not saying that they are the greatest poets, but that they have preeminently the sharp semitones of the sparrows and the larks. But when the general reader thinks of the birds of the poets, he very naturally calls to mind the renowned birds, the lark and the nightingale, old-world melodists, embalmed in old-world poetry, but occasionally appearing on the shores transported in the verse of some callow singer. The very oldest poets, the towering antique bards, seem to make little mention of the songbirds. They love better the soaring, swooping birds of prey, the eagle, the ominous birds, the vultures, the storks and cranes, or the clamorous seabirds and the screaming hawks. They suited better the rugged, warlike character of the times and the simple, powerful souls of the singers themselves. Homer must have heard the twittering of the swallows, the cry of the plover, the voice of the turtle, and the warble of the nightingale. But they were not adequate symbols to express what he felt or to adorn his theme. Aeschylus saw in the eagle the dog of Jove, and his verse cuts like a sword with such a conception. It is not because the old bards were less as poets, but that they were more as men. To strong, susceptible characters, the music of nature is not confined to sweet sounds. The defiant scream of the hawk circling aloft, the wild whinny of the loon, the whooping of the crane, the booming of the bittern, the vulpine bark of the eagle, the loud trumpeting of the migratory geese sounding down out of midnight sky. Or by the seashore, the coast of New Jersey or Long Island, the wild crooning of the flocks of gulls, the repeated continued by the hour, swirling sharp and shrill, rising and falling like the wind in a storm as they circle above the beach or dip to the dash of the waves, are much more welcome in certain moods than any and all mere bird melodies, in keeping as they are with the shaggy and untamed features of ocean and woods, and suggesting something like the Richard Wagner music in the ornithological orchestra. Nor these alone whose notes nice-fingered art must emulate in vain, but cawing rooks and kites that swim sublime in still repeated circles, screaming loud, the jay, the pie, and even the boding owl that hails the rising moon have charms for me, says Cowper. I never hear, says Burns in one of his letters, the loud solitary whistle of the curlew in a summer noon, or the wild mixing cadence of a troop of gray plovers in an autumnal morning, without feeling an elevation of soul like the enthusiasm of devotion or poetry. Even the Greek minor poets, the swarm of them that are represented in the Greek anthology, rarely make affectionate mention of the birds except perhaps Sappho, whom Ben Jonson makes speak of the nightingale as the dear glad angel of the spring. The cicada, the locust, and the grasshopper are often referred to, but rarely by name, any of the common birds. That Greek grasshopper must have been a wonderful creature. He was a sacred object in Greece, and is spoken of by the poets as a charming songster. What we would say of birds the Greeks said of this favorite insect. When Socrates and Phaedrus came to the fountain shaded by the plane tree where they had their famous discourse, Socrates said, "Observe the freshness of the spot, how charming and very delightful it is, and how summer-like and shrill it sounds from the choir of grasshoppers." One of the poets in the anthology finds a grasshopper struggling in a spider's web, which he releases with the words, "Go safe and free with your sweet voice of song." Another one makes the insect say to a rustic who had captured him, "Me, the nymph's wayside minstrel, whose sweet note o'er sultry hill is heard, and shady grove to float." Still another sings how a grasshopper took the place of a broken string on his lyre and filled the cadence due. "For while 6 chords beneath my fingers cried, he with his tuneful voice the 7th supplied, the midday songster of the mountains set his pastoral ditty to my canzonet, and when he sang, his modulated throat accorded with the lifeless string I smote." While we are trying to introduce the lark in this country, why not try this Pindaric grasshopper also? It is to the literary poets and to the minstrels of a softer age that we must look for special mention of the songbirds and for poetical rhapsodies upon them. The nightingale is the most general favorite, and nearly all the more noted English poets have sung her praises. To the melancholy poet she is melancholy, and to the cheerful she is cheerful. Shakespeare in one of his sonnets speaks of her song as mournful, while Martial calls her the most garrulous of birds. Milton sang, "Sweet bird that shunnest the noise of folly, most musical, most melancholy. Thee, chantress, oft the woods among I woo, to hear thy evening song." To Wordsworth she told another story. "O nightingale, thou surely art a creature of ebullient heart. These notes of thine, they pierce and pierce, tumultuous harmony and fierce. Thou singest as if the god of wine had helped thee to a valentine. A song in mockery and despite of shades and dews and silent night and steady bliss and all the loves now sleeping in these peaceful groves." In a like vein Coleridge sang, It is the merry nightingale that crowds and hurries and precipitates with fast, thick warble his delicious notes. Keats's poem on the nightingale is doubtless more in the spirit of the bird's strain than any other. It is less a description of the song and more of the song itself. Hood called the nightingale the sweet and plaintive Sappho of the dell. I mention the nightingale only to point my remarks upon its American rival, the famous mockingbird of the southern states, which is also a nightingale, a night singer, and which no doubt excels the old world bird in the variety and compass of its powers. The two birds belong to totally distinct families, there being no American species which answers to the European nightingale, as there are that answer to the robin, the cuckoo, the blackbird, and numerous others. Philomel has the color, manners, and habits of a thrush, our hermit thrush, but it is not a thrush at all, but a warbler. I gather from the books that its song is protracted and full rather than melodious, a capricious, long-continued warble, doubling and redoubling, rising and falling, issuing from the groves and the great gardens, and associated in the minds of the poets with love and moonlight and the privacy of sequestered walks. All our sympathies and attractions are with the bird, and we do not forget that Arabia and Persia are their back of its song. Our nightingale has mainly the reputation of the cage bird, and is famed mostly for its powers of mimicry, which are truly wonderful, enabling the bird to exactly reproduce and even improve upon the notes of almost any other songster. But in a state of freedom it has a song of its own which is infinitely rich and various. It is a garrulous polyglot, when it chooses to be, and there is a dash of the clown and the buffoon in its nature which too often flavors its whole performance, especially in captivity. But in its native haunts, and when its love passion is upon it, the serious and even grand side of its character comes out. In Alabama and Florida, its song may be heard all through the sultry summer night, at times low and plaintive, then full and strong. A friend of Thoreau and a careful observer who has resided in Florida tells me that this bird is a much more marvelous singer than it has the credit of being. He describes a habit it has of singing on the wing on moonlight nights that would be worth going south to hear. Starting from a low bush, it mounts in the air and continues its flight apparently to an altitude of several hundred feet, remaining on the wing a number of minutes and pouring out its song with the utmost cleanness and abandon, a slowly rising musical rocket that fills the night air with harmonious sounds. Here are both the lark and the nightingale in one, and if poets were as plentiful down south as they are in New England, we should have heard of this song long ago, and had it celebrated in an appropriate verse. But so far only one southern poet, Wilde, has accredited the bird this song. This he has done in the following admirable sonnet: To the Mockingbird. Winged mimic of the woods, thou motley fool, who shall thy gay buffoonery describe? Thine ever-ready notes of ridicule, pursue thy fellows still with jest and jibe. Wit, sophist, songster, Yorick of thy tribe, thou sportive satirist of nature's school, to thee the palm of scoffing we ascribe. Arch scoffer and mad abbot of misrule, for such thou art by day, but all night long thou pourest a soft, sweet, pensive, solemn strain, as if thou didst in this thy moonlight song, like to the melancholy Jacques, complain, musing on falsehood, violence, and wrong, and sighing for thy motley coat again. Aside from this sonnet, the Mockingbird has got into poetical literature, so far as I know, in only one notable instance, and that in the page of a poet where he would least expect to find him, a bard who habitually bends his ear only to the musical surge and rhythmus of total nature, and is as little wont to turn aside from any special beauties or points as the most austere of the ancient masters. I refer to Walt Whitman's Out of the Cradle Endlessly Rocking, in which the mockingbird plays a part. The poet's treatment of the bird is entirely ideal and eminently characteristic. That is to say, it is altogether poetical and not at all ornithological. yet it contains a rendering or free translation of a bird song, the nocturne of the mockingbird, singing and calling through the night for its lost mate, that I consider quite unmatched in our literature. Once Pamanute, when the snows had melted and the 5th month grass was growing, up this seashore, in some briars, 2 guests from Alabama, 2 together, and their nest and 4 light green eggs spotted with brown, and every day the he-bird to and fro near at hand, and every day the she-bird crouched on her nest, silent with bright eyes, and every day I, a curious boy, never too close, never disturbing them, cautiously peering, absorbing, translating. Shine, 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 pour down your warmth, great sun, while we bask, we 2 together. 2 together, winds blow south or winds blow north, day come white or night come black, home or rivers and mountains from home, singing all the time, minding no time, if we 2 but keep together. Till of a sudden may be killed unknown to her mate, one forenoon that she-bird crouched not on the nest, nor returned that afternoon, nor the next, nor ever appeared again. And thenceforward all summer in the sound of the sea, and at night under the full of the moon, in calmer weather over the hoarse surging of the sea, or flitting from briar to briar by day, I heard at intervals the remaining one, the he-bird, the solitary guest from Alabama. Blow, 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 blow up sea winds along Pamunk's shore, I wait and I wait till you blow my mate to me. Yes, when the stars glistened all night long on the prong of a moss scallop steak, all night long. Down, almost amid the slapping waves, sat the lone singer, wonderful, causing tears. He called on his mate. He poured forth the meaning which I, of all men, know. Soothe, 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 close on its wave, soothes the wave behind, and again, another behind, embracing and lapping, everyone close, but my love soothes not me, not me. Low hangs the moon, it rose late. Oh, it is lagging. Oh, I think it is heavy with love, with love. Oh, madly the sea pushes upon the land with love, with love. Oh, night, do I not see my love fluttering out there among the breakers? What is that little black thing I see there in the white? Loud, 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 loud I call to you, my love. High and clear I shout my voice over the waves. Surely you must know who is here. You must know who I am, my love. Low-hanging moon, what is that dusky spot in your brown yellow? Oh, it is the shape of my mate. Oh, moon, do not keep her from me any longer. Land, land, oh land, whichever way I turn, oh, I think you could give my mate back again, if you only would. For I am almost sure I see her dimly whichever way I look. O rising stars, perhaps the one I so much will rise with some of you. O throat, O trembling throat, sound clearer through the atmosphere. Pierce the woods, the earth, somewhere listening to catch you must be the one I want. Shake out carols, solitary, hear the night's carols. Carols of lonesome love, death's carols, carols under that lagging yellow waning moon. Oh, under that moon, where she droops almost down into the sea, oh, reckless, despairing carols. But soft, sink low, soft, let me just murmur. And do you wait a moment, you husky noise see? For somewhere I believe I heard my mate responding to me, so faint I must be still. I heard my mate responding to me, so faint I must be still to listen, but not altogether still, for then she might not come immediately to me. Hither, my love, here I am, here. With just this sustained note I announce myself to you. This gentle call is for you, my love, for you. Do not be decoyed elsewhere. That is the whistle of the wind. It is not my voice. That is the fluttering of the spray. Those are the shadows of leaves. O darkness, O in vain. Oh, I am very sick and sorrowful. The bird that occupies the second place to the nightingale in British poetical literature is the skylark. A pastoral bird, as the philomel is an arboreal, a creature of light and air and motion, the companion of the plowman, the shepherd, the harvester, whose nest is in the stubble and whose tryst is in the clouds. Its life affords that kind of contrast which the imagination loves. One moment a plain pedestrian bird, hardly distinguishable from the ground, the next a soaring, untiring songster, reveling in the upper air, challenging the eye to follow him and the ear to separate his notes. The lark's song is not especially melodious, but it is blithesome, sibilant, and unceasing. Its type is the grass, where the bird makes its home, abounding, multitudinous, the notes nearly all alike, all in the same key, but rapid, swarming, prodigal, showering down as thick and fast as drops of rain in a summer shower. Many noted poets have sung the praises of the lark, or been kindled by his example. Shelley's ode and Wordsworth's To a Skylark are well known to all readers of poetry, while every schoolboy will recall Hogg's poem, beginning, "Bird of the wilderness, blithesome and cumberless, sweet be thy matin o'er moorland and lea, emblem of happiness, blessed is thy dwelling place, oh, to abide in the desert with thee."